Okay, Coach, I'll start. How you doing?
Doing
Um,
outstanding. How are you doing, Dave?
pretty good here in this day of remote. I hope we can get back to normal soon.
Well,
I
normal.
just
You could dress like that if we were normal. So
I was looking back at some of your photos. You were a fierce young fella there when you were playing.
thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I've been around here in Pittsburgh for quite a while, and I've been covering, actually did a lot of coverage for some of the quote unquote small colleges. And I don't know if we want to call this level that anymore, but you were here in 2010 and beyond, I believe,
No, I
with
didn't get.
Pitt.
I didn't get to 2018. But don't worry about it.
Well, but I mean, weren't you here at Pitt for a little bit?
Oh yeah, I was at Pitt at 2010. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Try to
Okay.
remember that.
You
But
said small. You said small college, so you threw me off.
well, anyway, you were here, and I mean, if you think back about it, you can remember maybe seeing some tidbits here and there from colleges like Duquesne and Robert
Mhm.
Morris, and of course, St. Francis is over the mountain from here. These are schools that, not in the too distant past, some of them were club football teams, and even when that year around 2010, in that era, it was non-scholarship, or maybe before that. I don't even remember when it was, but even the Pioneer League now is non-scholarship, and some of these teams, it was unheard of for them to play the James Madisons and the Youngstown States and the Northern Iowas or what. But now you're routinely playing those schools, and you actually are jumping into a conference where you could be one of those schools. I just thought I would ask you for your maybe perception of that. And yeah, I don't think you didn't experience it because you weren't here. So you've played at such a high level. This probably isn't a big deal to you, but a lot of people are looking at these programs and saying, "Wow, you're actually playing FBS schools now, 1A schools." Um, do you hear anything about that from just outside, or what's your perception of that? How these programs are advancing the way they are now with the scholarship increases?
Well, I think the great thing about it is not just the programs that are advancing; it's the athletes that are advancing. We're getting a lot of athletes in right now that are able to function at those higher schools. They just happen to fall towards us, so they fall in love with us, and it becomes a situation where they really enjoy the culture that they're walking into. And I think that's what's making this football so much better now because of the athletes that are coming to play for us. Guys like George and Izon, Izon had offers to Illinois, he had offers to Virginia, he had offers at different places, and things didn't go the way they needed to go, and he ended up at Robert Morris, and we're happy to have him. But he's one of those guys who recruited by bigger schools, but just happens to be here. George is one of those guys. He lives up the street, didn't have a lot of offers. He found a school that he really loved and fell in love with the school, and he's doing great things for us. I think that's what's helping these universities is the fact that we've got great players that are coming in here now. And because of those great players, people are recognizing the fact that, hey, these guys can play. These guys can do this. You look at a Carson Wentz. I mean, you look at a guy who's coming from a 1AA school, other than Steve McNair back in the day, who came from a 1AA school to be a first-round pick. You had Eric Green, but I think at that time, yeah, he was at Liberty. You had some different guys, but not a
Jerry
whole lot.
Rice.
Yeah, exactly. Not a whole well. You can go back to Jerry Rice and
Yeah.
Walter Payton. We can keep going. We at one point Grambling had more guys in the NFL than any other school, but that was during segregation time. So we're talking about something totally different. But as of right now that integration has happened, you're talking about quality players going to different quality places because they're excited about playing in front of their families. They're excited about playing in front of their hometowns. They're excited about getting an opportunity to play as opposed to going to that big aquarium where there's so many players and they're going to a little pond and like, hey, I can play quality football, I can get a great education, and I could be playing in front of my family. So I think those things are extremely exciting to the young man, and that's why the football has grown the way it's grown so far. And as far as a school like Robert Morris University, playing against a school like James Madison, playing against a school like Albany, playing against a school like Villanova, it's because of that talent pool that's happened. And our guys believe that, hey, man, let's go compete against those guys. Let's go see how we play against those guys. Let's go see how we can play against those guys and play well against those guys and compete against those guys. Those things become exciting to our players.
Well, I do think it's interesting, that whole concept of what you're saying about playing the James Madisons like you're going to do, because really there was a time here in Pittsburgh when people talked about St. Francis and Robert Morris and Duquesne, not in the same breath with Youngstown, which is right up the road. And it was glorified Division III football then, really, as a non-scholarship program. That's what it
Right,
was.
right. And I agree with you. You're exactly right. But the fact that we've added scholarships and added quality athletes and things that they did, and what Joe Walton did here, and the way he brought the program up. I mean, in the NEC, winning 6 championships in the NEC, and doing things like that, and making people recognize, hey, Robert Morris is a good football team. Joe Walton did a great job in what he's doing right now. So they gave us an opportunity. Once people start recognizing these guys are playing well, it gives us the opportunity to go play a James Madison. It gives us the opportunity to play a Youngstown. It gives us an opportunity to play a Bowling Green. It gives us an opportunity to play Hawaii. So all those things start falling into place because of the athletes that we've brought here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
I'll jump in. Bernard, just kind of building off that. I remember the last time before you came to Harrisonburg, I remember you needed to upgrade the team speed a little bit. Have you been able to do that, you think, in your couple of seasons there now? Have you been able to do that and recruit at a little bit of higher level like you were talking about?
I think we've done a great job of that, myself and the coaches and the players. I mean, because obviously those are the guys who are the big recruiters for us. Those are the guys that come in and do it. But the great thing about playing against a team like James Madison, because we got George Martin, who played in the first game, who's been here and been in the system for the last 2 years. We got Izon Puller, who played in the first game and saw how fast those guys were and saw the kind of speed that we had and they had at that time. And these guys are veterans now. These guys know what they're going up against. They know that they're going to play against a great football team. Right now, James Madison is number 2 in the country. But it's one of those situations where we're not going in saying, hey, man, let's go jump all over James Madison. We're going in with a game plan. We're going in a game plan that these guys believe in, and we're going to do our best to compete and play hard against these guys and see what the outcome is. It's not a situation where we're trying to do this or do that, but our guys believe in themselves. And George, he's been here 3 years, and George has saw the receivers that we've slowly brought in. He saw how AJ, Elijah Jackson, has improved over the past 2 years and become a real good back who broke a long run against James Madison the last time we were there, but it got called back because of a holding call, which I didn't agree with, but that's a whole nother story. And we got a guy like Izon. At that time, we had him at defensive end, defensive tackle. We didn't know where to put him, but now we found a home for him. So our guys understand the culture we're building, understand what we're building. So to answer your question, have we gotten more team speed? Yes. But more importantly, we got a few more veterans. We got guys that understand a James Madison game because they played against James Madison. They played against Buffalo. They played against Youngstown. So they understand the big game atmosphere, whereas before they weren't playing in those types of games. So now that they're playing, they understand this is what we have to do in order to compete in a game like this. And I think they understand that.
Yeah, George, I'll kind of ask you then that. What do you remember about the 18 game and just how much more improved are you guys? Obviously, you finished last year strong. How much more improved are you guys?
When we went down there, what was that, 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago? I think our team was a lot different. We had guys who were kind of switching positions, didn't exactly know how they'd fit in the offense or the defense at the time. And we didn't know how to compete against them. We didn't know what kind of level, what kind of intensity, what kind of hard work it would take to really stack up against a team like that. But I think now, after a few years, and we got a couple other big games under our belt, we're coming off a better season. I think we're much more prepared to a much higher degree. And I think we're bringing that intensity and bringing that hard work to practice. And I guess we'll see on Saturday just how much we've been working.
Yeah, eyes on for you, and going up against, I guess, the James Madison rushing attack. What do you see with them, and how well do you know Palmer? I know you guys went to the same high school.
Yeah, actually, Latrell Palmer was a back for us for a little bit while we were in high school. I know him pretty well. We're from the same area in Maryland as well, too. Played same youth league, stuff like that. But as far as it goes, going against them run defense and stuff, everybody's going to win their one-on-one battle. Everybody's going to do their job, and everything's going to work out the way it's supposed to. We're not really too much worried about them. We're really worried about us and doing our job at a high level and letting all the other things fall into place. So we're going to go out there, we're going to execute, and we're going to ball, honestly.
Will you say anything to Latrell before the game or when he's
before, during, all that? He's going to hear me that game, I promise.
But Bernard, for you, what stands out to you about their rushing attack? I know they had good backs in the past, but this group maybe looks a little different for JMU.
The thing that stands out is, I know when I was there, Greg, back in 98 and 99, we had Curtis Keaton. Curtis Keaton was a 4th-round draft pick by the Cincinnati Bengals. Curtis ran a 4.23. So we had an outstanding back then. We also had Delvin Joyce, and Curtis played in the NFL. Delvin played in the NFL. So they've always had good running backs. So it's nothing new that James Madison has outstanding running backs. I guess the difference is now what they have are 3 guys with 3 different levels of speed. One tries to truck you. One wants to run you over. There's no doubt about it. Then Palmer, he can make you miss, but he can also run you over. And then they got number 3 who can also just run by you. So they have 3 different levels of running back. I think that's the thing that jumps out of them more than anything else. And the thing about it is they're not trying to be fancy. They're just going to run the ball down your throat, and they're going to make you like it. That's what it boils down to. They have a great running game, and that's the thing that stands out. And they have an offensive line that's extremely veteran-wise offensive line that plays solid, that plays hard, that gets after it. It's going to be a great challenge for our defensive line. But it's like Izon said, it's not about beating JMU. It's about you winning your individual battle and trying to make some things happen for our team and playing it to the best of your ability. We're not trying to go in there and conquer a monster. We're trying to go in there and win our individual battles and play hard as a football team and compete against these guys. That's what it boils down to more than anything else. But James Madison's running game is going to be great. You know, there's no doubt about it. This quarterback, even though the guy that he played behind for the past 2 years is at the next level now playing for the Dallas Cowboys, this guy has got the experience of playing behind that guy for the past 2 years and seeing what he's capable of doing, seeing what he's able of doing, and the reads that he's made and execution that he's set up. And he did some of that stuff last week against Morehead State. I mean, he played well against Morehead State. I know they didn't throw the ball a lot. When you go 10 for 14, that ain't easy. For 147 yards, when you only miss 4 of your passes in the game, that means you're making great decisions. And they handed the ball off when they need to hand the ball off. You're talking about 3 running backs that played outstanding. You're talking about they had 300-plus yards rushing. So we're going to have our hands full. But let's not forget about that defense. I mean, let's not just sit here and think it's just offense. They got an outstanding defense with a very veteran secondary that plays hard, that got some transfers on it that are pretty doggone good.
Yeah. I guess I would just ask you also about the transfers you've gotten. How have you guys been able to do it and recruit some transfers to Robert Morris that have stepped in and probably have played significant roles for you guys?
Again, I think it goes back to the fact that guys like George and guys like Ozon have played hard for us. And that's what the transfers are seeing. I think that's what a transfer sees anywhere. When he wants to go from the FBS level to the FCS level, I think what he's seeing is, man, we see some guys over there that are improving. We see some guys that can win some games. And I think when we get a guy like Davon Robinson from Rutgers and a guy like Dre Hicks from McNeese State, who was at Appy before then, a guy like Marcus, I can't pronounce Marcus' last name, so I'm not going to attempt to. So, Marcus from Bucknell, we get the guys like that transferring in. Those are the guys we need. And some of the JUCO guys we have. We have guys that have come in, safety like Jacob White, who's come from FIU. Those guys are coming in and seeing our players compete, not only on the football field playing, but also in the weight room, also during the offseason. Those are the things they're seeing. Probably the greatest story that we've had since we've been here. Our first year here, Greg, I think we had maybe 20, 30 guys in the summertime, and George and Izon can attest to that. Maybe we had 20. Guys just didn't want to be here in the summer. But the year in 2019, when we came back and we had a great year, we had about 40 or 50 guys up here in the summer. And those guys saw that and saw our guys competing in the summertime and lifting weights. And when we brought transfers in, and they would come up and they take visits, and our guys would talk about, hey, man, we want to make sure you're here in the summer. We want to make sure we're getting things done. Those are things that are exciting, the transfers, because they want to win. You know, they're not leaving a place where they decided to go to college out of high school. They're not leaving that place to come here not to win. They want to win, so they're doing the things they need to do to win. And they're seeing guys like Izon and George doing those types of things.
And, you know, Bernard, that all of that thinking process, and you talked originally there about the backup quarterback at James Madison and how he watched the guy ahead of him, all of that and all of these transfers coming in, that all that all goes into the thinking process of going to a better conference too. You know, you guys have to be able to have that kind of right thought process, because we talked earlier about how it was glorified Division III football. Now it's advanced to the Northeast Conference. No knock on them, but the scholarships aren't as high. Now you're in the Big South. I mean, the Big South is comparable, maybe. Some people might say it is or isn't, but you could say scholarship-wise, it's a Missouri Valley Conference or a CAA. Your guys have to see that.
There's no doubt. I mean, and the guys that are coming here, they see the fact that we're joining the Big South. They see that we're going to play Kennesaw State, who's 8th in the nation. They see we're going to play Monmouth, who's 20th in the nation. They see we're going to play James Madison, who's second in the nation. So they're seeing the fact, wow, these guys are going to the Big South. The competition has to pick up. And I hope Chris King is listening, because also the scholarships need to pick up. But that's a whole nother story. So we got to make sure we're doing those things properly and doing those things correctly. So we're excited about it. But again, like you said, but also those transfers that are trying to come here, they're excited about playing. And, you know, we get some guys, a couple guys from the South, but I don't want anybody to fret. Our main recruiting hub is still going to be Pennsylvania, Ohio, in the Maryland area. Yeah, we're going to try to go south a little bit, but those are going to still be our main hub, because those are the guys that make up the group of our team. And that's the culture that we're building, that tough, rugged, hard-nosed culture that plays football and competes on a regular basis. So, but you're exactly right. Joining the Big South is definitely going to help us, because of the simple fact it's a tougher conference. And again, I'm not knocking the NEC. Duquesne's a great school. Central Connecticut's a great school. Bryant's a great school. I'm not knocking that conference, but what I am saying, because like you said, because of the scholarships, you're just going to get more athletes. I mean, that's what it boils down to. So we're going to be able to compete more.
More depth. You know, that's what you need.
Absolutely. There's no doubt that's what you need, especially when you're going up against a monster like James Madison. You need more depth.
George, I'll just ask you, how good do you think you guys can be on offense with you back in the system for another year? Your running back Jackson back, who 1,000-yard back in 19. How good do you think you guys can be on offense this season?
I think we're going to be really good. If you take a look at our starting five, we're bringing back 4. We're bringing back other veteran guys that got a lot of playing time last year. And I think our receiving corps, we graduated a couple guys, but I think we brought them right back through recruiting, and I think we could be a really good offense. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to see the different ways we can gain yards, first downs, and some of the talent that some of these athletes have.
Biggest key for you guys on offense for Saturday?
I'd say sticking to fundamentals and keeping our focus. I think sometimes it's easy to get in these big games and lose your focus, and then you lose your fundamentals. And I think that could really hurt you as an offense. But I think we'll be pretty solid. I think everyone's kind of locked in and focused on what they need to be focused on.
Thanks.
Yep.
Greg, just to kind of piggyback off what George just said, piggyback off of what he said, George is exactly right. I mean, we got an offensive line that's a veteran offensive line. We got 3 guys we real good about: Eric McAllister, Trevor Hicks, and Bussy Ramelli. Bussy's a great player. And then we got Trevor Renfro, and we got Dylan Young. We got guys that are veterans, guys that played in the system for a while, and they're excited about playing in the system. And like I said, the thing about George has made him such a great player. He's one of those guys that he never really gets rattled. So, and I think since we've gotten here, that's what we noticed. You see that look he has on his face. I probably look he has on his face all the time, even in the game. He doesn't really change his expression too much, but that's the great thing about him. He's that kind of leader where when he walks into a huddle, he's not going to show emotions when he's excited. He's not going to show emotions when he's upset. So the guys know he's even keel at all times. He's just there to do his job and do the basics, fundamentals. And he's got a veteran offensive line that's going to protect him.
All right, Jeff's having some problems with his mic, so he texted me a question and would like each of you 3 to answer this when you get a chance. We'll start with Coach. What has it been like preparing for this time of year, and what is the anticipation like to finally get a chance to play?
Well, to be honest with you, Jim, the whole thing is this. Preparing for this time of year hasn't been a problem for us, and I'll tell you why. Over the past 2 years, what we've decided to do as a football team is we've decided to have spring practice basically 2 weeks after signing day. And signing day is the first Wednesday in February of the beginning of the new year. We usually start spring practice 2 weeks after that for 2 reasons. One, it gives us a chance to get spring ball, get it in, get it over with. So now our guys can concentrate on, one, staying in shape, because we don't have the funding for summer school. So our guys can stay here and stay in shape, and our strength and conditioning coach can get them ready to go through a summer without being up here and having the funding for summer school. Even though our guys stay up here and get jobs, we don't have the funding for summer school where they don't have to worry about jobs. And the second thing is it gives our guys an opportunity to concentrate on their grades. We finished spring ball at the end of March. So they got all of April and they got a little bit of May to make sure they're studying, make sure they stay on top of their grades. So that's why we started spring ball a little bit early. So preparing for it wasn't a big issue. The biggest issue has been COVID, to be totally honest with you. And it's not that dealing with COVID is the problem. It's the contact tracing that's the problem with COVID. If a guy gets COVID and he can't play, that's fine. But the problem is, the guy gets COVID and the 2 guys next to him can't play. So that's where the problem comes in. So it's the logistics of that. it's the logistics of having to put our guys on a bus, and now I got to make sure that George is in a room with somebody who's already had COVID. So I'm not worried about George being in trouble. I got to put George on one bus, the second team quarterback on another bus, and the third team quarterback on another bus, because we can't have George and the second team quarterback getting it, because now we just lost a quarterback. We can't have Izon on the bus with our other starting defensive tackle, because we can't have both of them go down if one of them gets. So that's the crazy part of this whole thing. It's not so much playing. It's not so much getting excited about playing, because one of our guys came to my office the other day, one of our players said, "Coach, I came to college to actually play football, not practice." So these guys are ready to go. That's not going to be the issue. The issue has been all the logistics around COVID.
George, you want to piggyback off that?
Yeah, I think he hit the nail on the head there. But as far as preparedness goes, we're used to playing in the spring. We're used to spring ball. We're used to, playing in, some weather that, isn't typical for football season, I'd say. But I think, taking that semester where really we didn't have anything to do and we didn't have our season, I think everyone's just that more excited, and it really follows through to this spring season. But yeah, I think Coach Clark hit everything pretty good. So,
Eyes on your turn.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of that, just not being able to play and everything, I feel like that everybody knows now that the opportunity can be taken away from us. So I think that brings even like a higher level of focus. Everybody making sure they're doing what they need to do. With us being 4 days away now, like the excitement level is just through the roof. You know what I mean? Just after being here in the fall, we didn't play, but we were still practicing. You know what I mean? So now, like, us having a game week and a game plan, scouting reports, all that kind of stuff, I think that just is good to be around. You know what I mean? All the players are very excited, and I think that just helps us tap into a different level of focus, knowing how we haven't played a game in almost a year and 3 months. Now we're 4 days away. Everybody's just locked in, prepared, and excited, ready to go.